You're listening to the Zero to Somewhere podcast with Nick Palmisano and Albert So.
Episode 5. So by the time...
All right, re-kick us off because Hollywood just ruined it.
Well,
again.
we'll just include that part because the ridiculousness of our producer has to be part of the show.
Yeah,
we got a guy behind the camera named Hollywood Herd. He's like a giant Guy Fieri, just yelling shit half the time, making no sense at all. Okay? He's back there, so if you hear him, now he's being quiet. See how he's being quiet now? He's like,
but he's glaring at you.
Yeah, he's smiling.
You guys will probably eventually fight. Like
I don't think so.
It's in the
I don't think so. He does look like Guy Fieri's like older brother or something like that. I made a comment about that once, and I think he stopped dyeing his hair because of it.
No, he still dyes his hair sometimes.
He stopped dyeing his hair because of it. Welcome back, episode 5, the last episode for our audience. Let's make sure everyone knows where we are in time.
Yeah,
was you and Tim right before you guys left to go to Afghanistan. Now we're not going to overly talk about Afghanistan, but
we're not.
That was a pretty crazy timeline of events. Because you're there on business doing some work.
Yep.
And then instantly.
Yeah. We're in Austin, Texas, working on Tim's book, which is coming out next year,
which I am proud to be the author of.
Yeah. And probably 5 to 10 minutes after we finished the podcast was when I got the text message from first Sarah Verardo and then Chad Robichaud, basically saying, can you go to Afghanistan? Which at first seemed comical. Why do you need a middle-aged dude to go to Afghanistan? But fast forward a short period of time later, and Tim and I are on a plane to Abu Dhabi and then to Kabul, and we spent 10 glorious days evacuating a bunch of people. Ended up evacuating 12,000 people, which was 10.2% of all evacuations out of Kabul.
Phenomenal number.
Kind of a wild and crazy time. But the whole time I was thinking, I just need to get back so that I can do this podcast.
Definitely
with Jason Van Camp. No, it wasn't about Albert.
Definitely not one of your thought processes.
And Jason was a good dude because we were supposed to be podcasting with Jason.
We've literally delayed Jason's episode 2 times now.
But Jason was like, "You're in Afghanistan. It's okay."
Well, listen,
it's totally okay. Don't worry.
We're here with Jason Van Camp. He is the CEO of Mission 60. He is also the executive chairman of Warrior Rising. We're going to dive into his world in just a moment. But before we go, during the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, what has happened? What have you been doing while I was gone?
So I think this is great to bring up for all business owners because one of the things you need, and need meaning me, is a second in command. Because you mentioned before, and I think you should tell this story, back in the day when you were at Ranger Up, you did not really have a second in command. Yet you did go away and you found out how bad that was.
Well, I don't want to say that because that is unfair.
Okay.
But what did happen is both I and my second in command were heavily involved in the movie Range 15.
Okay.
So
it went to number 3.
Yeah, it went to number 3.
And what happened with number 3?
So what happened with number 3 was number 3 had recently graduated from a master's program. She was feeling very saucy about her skills. She had some finance and business
confidence for those of you
skills.
not aware. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's good.
The guidance. So this was right before the holiday season. The guidance that she was given was you are allowed to spend up to $250,000. Here's what I think we should spend, and then you get $35K of flex if you think I'm wrong in any of these areas. So she could order.
So that's 15%.
Yeah. So I respected her.
Yeah. 15% of grace.
She did some math wrong, decided that I was wrong, and without checking with me, ordered an additional $300,000 worth of inventory.
Okay, that's more than the 15,000 you authorized.
She 2x'd it. I had nothing. This is on me, right? I had nothing in place.
No checks and balances in place.
No checks and balances. I had nothing in place where, like the vendors had to like confirm, hey, Nick.
Yeah. So this isn't swiping a P card where instantly the charge would go in and you would be like, oh my goodness, like that's overcharged. Like, what is that? This is someone signing a contract order.
Yes. This is a PO
committed,
placed.
net 30 payment terms. You have no cash going out the door. The order gets made. I mean, you're locked in.
So I get back from the movie. I'm at an all-time high because we just made this movie. It went great. I'm excited. The holiday season kicks off. We're selling like record-breaking stuff. I'm feeling awesome about myself. And I'm in my head the whole time. I'm like, all right, we made this much. So we've paid the bills. So everything after this is profit. Like I'm feeling great. We're going to have a good chunk of change in the bank at the end of the holiday season. And then like we get a bill that's like, I'm like, no, like we've already paid, the $280,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't have any more bills. And then the guy's like, oh no, there's a lot more bills coming. And then I'm like, well, that's impossible. So I start like looking at all the POs and everything. And anyway, then I uncover.
I'm sorry I'm laughing now, but it is funny now.
I uncover that like, we have this come to Jesus and we're totally screwed. Totally screwed. There is no way that I'm coming up with, this additional $300 some odd thousand. And it was like one of the biggest crises that I've ever had. I had to like reach out to, all the vendors and say, hey, this is what happened. I need to restructure things. Can you still keep printing? Well, we can print, but you've got to pay 120% for everything you order until you're, it really sucked. It really sucked.
And you also had stacks of clothes you unsold.
Yeah, that was the other part. I looked around like towards the end of the holiday season, and usually by the end of the holiday season, it's pretty bare bones.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, we really have a lot of inventory. like I was actually feeling good, I'm like, oh man, we sold all this, we paid for everything, and we still have all this stuff. But come to find out, it was like, $300,000 extra worth of shit that, So I'm about to find out right now what if Albert did the same thing while I was gone.
So I've signed, I think I've added a little business. No bad business has happened. So we added a little bit of business. Some of our customers have expanded with some more web services, which is pretty exciting.
Yep.
But no, we did not buy anything. I didn't buy anything. I didn't buy anything crazy. Our buddy Hollywood over here, he might have bought some stuff, some cameras.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's obviously tough in our business, our line of work. Our line of work is, agencies are a people business. A lot of our customers knew who you were. They trust you to do a good job. I did have to explain to everybody where you were, but it was an easy story to tell because, you weren't on vacation. Obviously, you were doing something monumental. Had I said everyone, well, he's just, sipping Mai Tais, chilling.
Yeah.
Like they might not be too cool with you being gone for that extended period of time.
I don't think I've chilled for like 23 years.
You went to the lake and had some fun.
Yeah,
I saw you with sunscreen on your face.
I worked from the lake.
I didn't ask you to work from the lake. You went to the lake. You had sunscreen.
All right.
You were having fun, unless you put that on as like a mirage.
I had fun, but I didn't have fun the last couple weeks.
No, but so business has been. We're in an interesting point, and we're gonna. We're about to. I got to introduce our buddy Jason. Is what we're finding out. Some of our clients have found out that their business is a little bit seasonal, and so if our client is seasonal and they want a break, we have been a little different in granting that. Yeah. So we're not trying to hold people in when they. So like the reality is a lot of products are seasonal. I think it's hard for newfound entrepreneurs to stomach that. We joke about it all the time with like the flowers industry. They really haven't figured out a way to sell flowers away from Valentine's and Mother's Day. They would love to. We mentioned Pajamagram is another company. It's like a Christmas gift to Valentine's Day kind of business.
Yeah, once winter's over, nobody cares. Nobody wants pajamas.
Custom pajamas are a hard buy.
Yeah.
In the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Like embroidered his and hers, Mrs. P and Mr. P.
Yep.
Jammies. I know you guys got at least 7.
But velour lives.
Velour is forever, but I do think we need to get some velour shorts for the summer because I can't wear the full Diesel Jack Media velour in the dead of summer. I can't. I'm Italian. I generate sweat and heat.
Shorts are coming.
Yeah.
All right.
So we have had a couple of customers pause, which it's it was probably not. I mean, obviously, it's not a great thing, but it's a reality. Their reality is our reality. So
Yep.
they're in a season, we're in season. So that's what's been happening. On the whole, Diesel Jack continues to grow.
Yep.
We did not set the business on fire while you were gone, and
Don't worry, Albert, I'm back. Everything's gonna be all right.
I know. We'll set the fire. We'll set it on fire together, like that. We have yet to make a cataclysmic decision, but who knows? Maybe tomorrow's the
maybe
day.
this is the week where the cataclysmic decision happens. All right.
Without further
enough
ado,
of us, right? Jason Van Camp. He sounds like a character from Sound of Music, but he is actually he's actually a real person. He's a West Pointer. We were at West Point about the same time, or there was some overlap.
Green Beret.
Yep, Green Beret, Ranger qualified, can jam from the free throw line.
Also went to high school in my area, which is weird. We found out his brother and I competed against each other when we
Who won?
had. Woodson did beat West Springfield, but there was a brawl on the field. There was a brawl.
Did you
on the field.
punch his brother?
No, I did not punch his brother, but we found out that we actually overlapped at this brawl, like a bench clearing brawl.
That's awesome. I'm a little sad that there isn't like a picture of you.
There's gotta be a video.
Like you and his brother, like Rocky style, punching each
this
other.
is 1997. This is 1997. Like camcorders back then were still very expensive. Like it wasn't like a thing.
yeah.
Like there was that one dad that had a
There was the
camcorder.
one dad, and everybody was like, "Man,
That was my dad. My dad had the video camera.
And they're like, that shit is
we got-
awesome.
We watched our game film because my dad had the camera. That's what we used.
we got to find that footage of that bench.
We gotta find that.
We gotta
footage.
find a young Albert punching a young Van Camp.
What were
Well-
you were a defense or were you attack?
Yeah, I played defense.
Okay, my brother was defense too, so I don't know for sure if you guys did the
Met
defense
in the
on
middle.
defense. Yeah, I'm not sure how that went down, but
Yeah, I was number 6, and I was still this tall. So
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I was still this tall. Also, I wasn't there, but I just want you guys to know the height didn't change.
Jason,
Any-
welcome to the. All right, let's get it rolling, man. Jason, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Hollywood behind the scenes, man. He's crushing. He's a world traveler. This guy's been to Egypt. He's uncovered tombs, man. The guy's been to the ancient lost city of Mu.
Listen,
Yeah, that guy's been everywhere. And thanks for
going
having
forward,
me,
we only make fun of Hollywood, okay? I don't want you to get.
Let's
I
not-
just
no,
heard
we-
you just gave him a whole bunch of credit.
We don't-
praise. No
we don't-
praise for Hollywood.
Hollywood
All
gets
right,
enough praise in his life. On this show, we only make fun of him.
cool. All right.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
can hear him laughing. in
So
the
so I
background.
get right out of the gate, one of my favorite stories of all time. One of my favorite fucking stories of all time.
Okay.
You are starting Mission 60,
Yeah.
right? You are starting Mission 60. You have 0 clients. Tell everybody who your first one client was.
Yeah, the origin story of Mission 60. Let's hear
The
it.
origin story of Mission 60, man. That's my first ever client was the NFL's New York Jets. That was my first client. And I'll tell you how it
Boo!
happened.
Go
For
Pats!
a Boston guy. For a Boston guy, it's not their favorite team. But you guys, I mean, why wouldn't it be your favorite team? You guys beat them like consistently
time.
twice a year for
All-
like 100 years.
All the time. Yeah.
So it was, you know, I'm starting this business. I'm at business school. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I have a ton of confidence in myself. You know what I mean? And I've got a lot of excitement. And we started this company, Mission 60, getting together some of the best leaders I've ever met in my military career. Some of my former commanders, some peers, some subordinates, some Medal of Honor guys I'd want to be in a room with and have my kids just soak up everything that they are as, you know, individuals, as people, as leaders, you know. And I got them together and I was like, let's start this business. And most of them said, yeah, man, let's do it. Jason, I'm all in. And
What
so
was
I was
the
like, cool.
what was the original purpose? Was it to teach and educate people on leadership training?
The original idea was executives want to have a special forces type of experience. They would like to go to the range or learn CQB or things like that. And I thought, hey, there's a lot of money in this. Nobody's doing this, right? Nobody's doing it. And since that idea, we've realized that wasn't the best, you know, vertical that we could take. We've pivoted several times throughout our life cycle until what we're doing now.
Yeah.
But at the time, we really didn't have a product. We just had some good guys, that I thought we could create something. And so I'm at business school, and I'm like, well, we need a client. Who can we work with? And I'm like, I love sports. I played college football. I watched NFL. I love baseball. I was always terrible at baseball, but I love it. Hockey. I love hockey. I wasn't ever a huge basketball fan, at least professional basketball fan, because my team was the Wiz, the Bullets growing up. And we were never great.
It was hurting. It was hurt box.
It was a hurt box, right? So I'm thinking, maybe we could work in the NFL. And I Google NFL team contact information, and I found a list of basically the front desk of all these NFL teams alphabetically. And I was like, well, here we go. And I just started cold calling these teams alphabetically one at a time, Arizona Cardinals, Atlanta Falcons, Buffalo Bills, kind of go down the list. And every call I make, I'm learning something new. I'm like, oh, okay, this is the person I really need to talk to. Okay, this is sort of how I go about pitching this idea. And I finally get to the New York Jets, and they send me to a guy named Dave Zott. And I remember Dave Zott, he played left guard. He played guard, essentially, for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was an all-pro guy, amazing guard. And I just remember the name for whatever reason when I was younger. And you don't really follow guards, in the NFL, but I remember kind of following this guy.
Yeah, you got to be a real fan to know who the guard is.
I don't know. I thought he was a cool guy, right? And I get on the phone with him, and we hit it off. You're vibing with some people. You vibe with some people you don't. We were vibing, and it was a good conversation. And Dave, at the end of it, was like, "Listen, Jason, I like you, man. I know what you're trying to do, but we got a couple other companies that do something similar to what you're describing. They're coming in next month for a presentation." He's like, "You know what? Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll do you a favor. If you want to come up here and present, I'll let you do that, but you have to pay for your own flights and hotels and everything else. And I'll tell you right now, Jason, you're not going to get it, but it'll be a good learning experience for you." And I said, "Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. We'll be there." And I hung up the phone, and I was like high-fiving myself, man. I was like, This is awesome. We're going to get this contract. I know it.
So you weren't discouraged at all. He kind of tried to he kind of tried to kill his dream.
That was
right
that was like a triple dog dare for Jason.
Yeah. He's like he tried to kill your dream right out the gate. He's like, "Yeah, you're not gonna get it.
You're not gonna get it." Jason's like, "I'm getting it."
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. In my mind, I was like, "Oh, I'm getting that thing." Like you said I wouldn't get it. All right, now I'm gonna get it. Give me more motivation to do it.
And then I'm gonna sleep with your mom. Wait, what? Sorry. That got aggressive.
That was a bit much.
And then I'm going to do this. So I tell a couple of the guys on the team, and I'm like, "Hey, guys, we got the New York Jets. Well, you got the contract?" No, but we have to pitch. Okay, well, how does that look? And I didn't tell them that I was basically already told no. I gave them some hope. And so they were like, "Well, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it?" So that's when things got real in the company. We're like, we got to create a product. We got to create something. So we put together an idea of what we would like it to look like. And we were like, we're going to go up there and crush it, man. We're going to crush it. As an officer in the military, especially in the special forces, man, you have to be up in front of colonels and generals all the time, pitching, your mission set and your ideas and things like that. And I had done it so often, I was pretty comfortable in that environment. You know what I mean? I was okay with a slide deck and presenting and answering questions, especially when you use some humor and some charisma, throw a little bit of that in there, you feel pretty good about it. And so we
have you ever shown charisma, Albert?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
But he is wearing a pretty sick cap shirt, man. So that's one thing. So we go up there and we're getting ready to go to Florham Park, New Jersey. It's the Jets sort of compound. And it's raining out, man. Torrential. I mean, thunderstorm, like bad. It's raining. And we're dressed to the nines, man. We suits. I think Shane was wearing like a 3-piece suit, like ties, the whole thing. And we get into the rental car, and we're gonna show up like an hour early, to get the lay of the land, to prepare, and all this stuff. And before we go, I forgot to mention this. So we're preparing our presentation, and I tell Shane and Matt, I'm like, "Guys, we gotta bring it, man. Like we gotta do something they've never seen before. We gotta really bring this." I'm like, "Well, what are you thinking?" I'm like, "Well, the worst thing they can say is no. And what if we did this, man? What if you guys came in, dressed as terrorists, And they both kind of looked at me like, what? Like, where are you going with this? I'm like, yeah, hold on. Hear me out. We'll get some zip ties. We'll get some flashbangs. And you guys come in there and throw some flashbangs and then throw the coaches down and zip tie them. And that'll be like, an example of what we could do with them with the role playing and the leadership and stuff. And they were both like immediately like, no. And I was like, hear me out.
I got to ask a question. Did you already know this plan before you were in the rental car?
Yeah.
I mean, you had to because you already had all the gear.
I got too far in the story before. I got to backtrack just a little bit. So in the preparation, this is kind of what we were talking about. And I eventually wore them down where they were like, all right, Jay, well, okay, let's do it. And I was excited about it, and they bought in reluctantly, and so we got the flashbangs. They weren't like real flashbangs. We got the flashbangs. We got the zip
they were
ties.
the baby ones, the training
the baby
ones.
ones, exactly.
Yeah.
And we got the airsoft weapons that looked like real weapons. We painted the tips so that they were black instead of orange. So they looked real.
Did you fly all this gear? Like when you
Flew
were
it
going
all
through
in there.
You're
And
flying
it
through
wasn't hard.
TSA. Like they
It wasn't hard
your
getting
luggage.
there.
They were like, what is
But
this?
getting out, like I definitely had to talk to the New York City Police Department. They're like it's a toy. It's a toy gun. They're like looking at it.
Like, why do you
can
have
break
all
it
this?
if you want,
Yeah.
So we're in the car, right? And we know we're going to present like this. And we have, it'll be like a 30-minute presentation. It's not just the takedown, the hostage takedown,
Right.
Scenario. And it's raining hard. I'm driving. All of a sudden, there's something in the road. There's a truck that had, careened off the side of the road. Something fell off the truck. And I try to swerve to avoid it. And our tire hits this thing, pops. We don't go flipping or anything, but we kind of spin out to the side of the road. Everybody's fine. Tire's completely destroyed. And we're like, everybody okay? Yeah, everybody okay. And we're like, shit, all right. And we're looking outside. We're like, dude, we got our suits on. It's friggin' coming down, this rain. All right, let's go change this tire. And so we're in a rental car, and we're trying to figure out where the tools are. And it's like
where's the
crappiest
tire?
tools.
If they're even there.
crappiest tools available.
And it's a donut. Yeah.
It's exactly. So
Yeah.
we're out there.
You've got like a 4-inch crescent wrench.
It's exactly what we had. Kind of going into it.
His hands, he just micro did it. He's like, those little fine. He looks like he has eyeglass tools. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's what Jason just did. He used his hands like he had eyeglass tools.
He's hand tightening the lug nuts.
Yeah. This will hold.
So we go in. We're changing the tire. It takes a lot longer than we hoped, and we got grease on us. We're slopping wet, man, wet. And we get back in the car, and now there's just crazy traffic. So now we're stuck in traffic, and now we're starting to stress. We're like, hey, we still got 30 minutes. We're still good to go. All of a sudden, we're getting close, man. And I'm like gunning it on the side of the road. We're getting through. We're like running red lights. We finally get to Florham Park with like 2 minutes to spare, like 2 or 3 minutes to spare. And we get to the security guy, and he's like, hey, are you Van Camp? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you guys should have been here a long time ago. You're military. I'm like, okay, I got it. We're military. We should have been here a long time ago. So he's like, go. Like, we got 1 minute, dude. So we pull up. We run inside the lobby, and Dave Zott's there. He's like, hey, Jason? I'm like, yeah, like pouring like the water from my face, from my hair. He's like, oh, man, like I was hoping you guys would be here a little bit earlier, but that's okay. You guys are up. And I'm just like, oh, geez. Like no time to like get your composure, And so he leads me into this conference room, and I walk in there, and there's Rex Ryan, there's Mike Tannenbaum, there's all these coaches sitting around a conference table, and I take a second to like look at them and be like, this is a little overwhelming. These guys are celebrities. It's the first time I've ever been like in a room with these guys. It's like, okay, here we go. Give me a second, guys. I'll plug in my computer and my zip drive. So
you're soaking wet.
Oh, just soaking. I still have my coat on because it was February, so I take that off and I'm ready to go. I'm like, all right, guys. I'm Jason Van Camp. This is start talking, and door slams open. These guys are like, what's going on? Flashbangs thrown. Shane and Matt walk in in terrorist garb, shouting, yelling, aggressive, and they're, what's happening? Shane's like throwing people off their chairs. Matt grabs Rex Ryan, like puts him in like a rear naked choke, throws him on the ground.
This is when Rex was at his peak, like big.
Yeah,
he was
a
big.
He was a big boy.
It's big.
Yeah.
They're cussing. They're like, get the fuck on the ground. Like all this stuff. They're going crazy. I mean, they're bringing it. You know, like and the other guys with Will Ferrell and with Will Ferrell and Mark.
The other guys.
Marky Mark, right?
Yeah, Mark
And the other
Wahlberg.
guy's like, well, I knew you would bring it, and I had to go even harder. And so they're like trying to top each other in aggressiveness, and then they zip tie Rex, and they're like, get up, you fat ass, and they're like bringing him up. And I'm like, here's a moment of truth. Is he going to be like, get the F out of here? Or is he going to be, you know, he's smiling, he's laughing, and like, I'm like, okay, this is good. And I stopped it. I was like, okay, guys, you know, thanks for these are my guys, Shane and Matt. We want to give you a taste of what we can do for you and your team. And they're cutting the zip ties off everybody. And those guys loved it, man. Like Rex and his guys, they were laughing. They were like, that was crazy, man. Is that what you guys do? Like, yeah, you know.
Were they,
wow,
Yeah,
were they
yeah,
scared?
all the time.
Were they scared, or were they scared
No,
in the
they
moment,
weren't
or did they
like-
know that this was part of the presentation?
They did not know this was part of the presentation. But at the same time, they didn't think that terrorists infiltrated the conference room, you know, especially while I was standing there, like watching them. You know what I mean? So they
Yeah.
were like, I mean, there was
Probably
sense of-
a moment of fear, and then like, all
yeah,
right.
there's a moment of fear and like
Yeah.
shock and like I'm getting thrown on the ground. What's going on? And then sort of like, oh, okay, this is not. I'm not being kidnapped right now. You know, what I
Yeah.
mean? There's
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
that feeling. And then you know, we did the presentation, and Rex was just like, you know, he was sweating a little bit, and he was like nodding his head, and like he was grinning a little bit when I was presenting, and we presented, you know, for 20, 30 minutes. And near the end of the presentation, like I'm just like feeling it. I'm feeling his enthusiasm. I'm like, we got this. And so I walk up to Rex, and I just, you know, like in the military, you have like a knife edge, right? When you're talking to somebody, you just knife edge them like that. And so I'm like walked over to Rex's seat, walked around everybody else, and I'm knife edging Rex in the face, because I'm fired up, man.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just
yeah,
like,
you're running on adrenaline. I mean, you're hopped up on adrenaline because this was I'm either gonna get this deal or I'm gonna go to prison.
Or yeah, I'm getting
Yeah,
thrown out on my ass.
There's no in between. Like, you know.
Yeah. If there was
There's
a
no-
really conservative or uptight
Yeah.
person, they could have said, hey,
Yeah.
he assaulted me, he battered me, I didn't agree to this.
Yeah.
I'm blacklisted. I didn't even consider like you're blacklisted from the NFL. You know, like, I never even considered that. Like, don't you ever step foot in another. You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, I rolled the dice, man, and I was excited about it. And so at the end of the presentation, Rex is like, "All right, Jason, here's the deal, man. We've got a couple other companies that we already listened to. You're the last company we listened to. You know, we have a lot to consider, but I'll tell you what, man. You know, we had no idea who you were. You told us yourself we are your first ever client."
Yeah.
And it was kind of quiet, and it was kind of like, where's he going with this? And he's like, I'll tell you what, Jason, congratulations, because your first ever client is the New York Jets. And then they sort of got up and left. And we were just kind of standing there like, hell yeah, man, we did it. And,
Yeah.
and then we were celebrating. We were like calling our parents after, you know, in the hallways, you know, our friends. And then the dust settled, and it was just kind of like, shit, man, like that's we got to train these guys. Like, this is your first ever client.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
we got
like the end of The Graduate, you know, when the girl's like, yeah, I'm going with you. And then they're on the back of the bus and they're like,
and they're
oh,
kind of looking at each other like,
oh shit, did we even want this?
When I
good analogy.
when I think of Jason's story, it does, because of my background, it does remind me a lot of different companies that have started up. You know, there's this argument like, do we build the perfect product first? Do we try to sell it first?
Yep.
I mean, he clearly tried to sell it first.
Yeah.
He was selling something he didn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And that has actually repeated itself many, many times over different companies. I mean, honestly, it's completely within. It's probably the best idea you can have is to attempt to sell something first and then try to fulfill
Before
it.
the investment.
So famously, Dollar Shave Club is one of the more famous companies that has gotten huge, that the guy put together a whole marketing video without ever having a product. He didn't know how to fulfill
He had
razors.
15 grand, right?
He had $5.
$5,000. And
like
he put all
$5,000.
$5,000 to
Wow.
he put all $5,000 to the video and had no product. and then launched the video and sold like millions of dollars in product that he had never created.
Yeah, the story was he knew someone who could make razors and had excess inventory, and the guy put the idea in his head, like, I could use some help moving some razors. He's like, huh. And he started thinking about it. But point being is, you are in that ethos of a lot of startups where it's like, hey, I don't necessarily need a product. I don't have to perfect a product. I can go attempt to sell it first. When you first started calling all these people, that's something a lot of people are scared of. They're scared to cold call. They're scared to prospect. What was your mentality at that point? I mean, clearly you weren't scared because you did it, but like, were people like, oh, did anyone you told your plan to, meaning did they try to talk you into something else? We're like, oh, Jason, but you have to do this and that before you can make a phone call. Or were you like, no, I'm just going to call these people?
Like the people that I had on my team, they weren't business guys either. So they didn't know what to do. They were just kind of following my lead, and I was blind myself. It was sort of like the blind leading the blind. They had their opinions and their thoughts, and like, hey, Jason, why don't we do this or that or the other thing? But it's sort of like I joke around a lot about it. Is the Van Camp family crest is just a cart before the horse. It's just a horse and then a cart, And I don't mind that. And like you said, it's oftentimes successful, but you don't want to get into a situation like Fire Festival, with who was that guy, Billy McFarland?
He's in jail.
Yeah, he's in jail. But he have the best festival in the world on this island.
He
tried to Wayne's World too.
But he had no intent of fulfilling the order. Like, you can't say, Blink 182 is playing my show, and then like, did you book them?
They don't show
I
up.
didn't book them.
I
didn't book them. Like, my bad.
Yeah, Wayne's World. It's literally the plot of Wayne's World too.
Yeah, Albert, you were supposed to do that. I didn't. All right. I'm pointing the finger at you, buddy. You did it. Not me.
Yeah. He's in jail for that one. Yeah, but you know what? When he comes out, he's going to be rich, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone's going to want his story.
Oh yeah.
Because because
it's ridiculous.
It's preposterous. He's gonna be just like Jordan Belfort and possibly make money off his story.
So one thing that we this podcast in particular is about going from zero to somewhere. Yeah. And so that, first of all, I've heard a lot of crazy opening stories, but that is by far,
that's the most insane first customer story.
Every time I think about Rex Ryan getting thrown on his ass and zip stripped, like, I'm just like, that is the craziest shit I've ever heard.
And this was the season that they made the playoffs. Is this correct? Like, after you guys worked with them, leadership, team building, they actually made the playoffs that year.
Yep.
Yeah, they went to the playoffs that year, and they did pretty well that year.
Yeah.
Was this the same year of the Bart Scott, can't wait?
Yeah, that was that year. He's a great dude. I actually saw him again at the Super Bowl a few years after, and he remembered me, and he's a cool guy. It was with Mark Sanchez.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pre-butt fumble.
I remember that.
Pre-butt fumble.
Yep.
Before he imploded.
So what
Darrell Revis, who was one of the best
Revis
corners
Island.
Yeah.
at the time. And,
we eventually got him.
You get all the good guys, man.
We got him, won a Super Bowl with him. Kicked him. But what percentage of their success would you say came down to Mission 60 and Jason Van Camp?
That's a great question. And, for selling purposes, I can't assign a percentage or a number to it. I can't be like, 33% improvement in whatever, because, we're a people business, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So what I can get is testimonials, I got testimonials from Rex and, Mike Tannenbaum, and who was the GM of the Jets at the time, and Sanchez, and, Bart Scott, and Dave Zott, and Tim Tebow, and all those guys. And it was kind of like, just be honest, guys. Tell us what you liked about what we did and how it helped you, moving forward. And one of the best stories I heard was from Matt Slauson, who was a guard for the Jets at the time. And he was a young guy, but he was already like a Pro Bowl guard, right? And we did a role-playing event out in the woods at Woody Johnson's farm, a number of them with the team. And after one of the events, I was like, hey, Matt, how'd it go for you, man? Did you learn anything? I want to get some feedback. And he was like, well, Jay, it was pretty interesting. I didn't expect it to go down like that, but I'll tell you, the one thing I learned was, and he pointed to a guy who was just standing across this dirt road. He's like, I learned this. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you know who that guy is? And I was like, yeah, that's Jeff Cumberland. And Jeff was a backup tight end at the time. He was also a fairly young guy. And he's like, yeah, Jeff's a tight end. I'm a guard. We both play offense. I'm like, okay. Well, he's like, we've both been on the same team for 3 years now. like, okay, where are you going with this? He's like, the first time I've ever said a word to Jeff was 5 minutes ago. I'm like, wow, man. That's surprising to me because I left a meeting earlier today with Rex Ryan and the team, and Rex is saying, hey, we're a team, we're a family, we're a brotherhood. We fight for the man to our left and to our right. I'm like, Matt, how are you going to fight for that person if you don't even know who that person is, man? Like, how are you going to even care about that person? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, why don't we set up a conversation? Like, Jeff, come over here. And I got Jeff and, Matt talking, and they became friends, like not the best of friends, but they became friends. And that helped Jeff to feel more welcome in the locker room. And that year he had, I think, 5 times as many receptions as he did in his career. I think he had like 3 more touchdowns than he had in previous years. And afterwards, Matt went to the Chargers and the Bears and the Colts, and he retired a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago maybe. And he's like, Jay, like when I was older, my play diminished. I wasn't the same player I was when I was younger. And these teams that were bringing me in, they were like, Matt, you still can play at a pretty high level as a guard, but we're bringing you in because of your leadership abilities, because of what you bring to the locker room. That's why we're bringing you in, man. And Matt said, Jason, it was all because of you. It was all because of Mission 60 and the training that we got from you guys. You instilled that in me. You helped me to understand about leadership and being a commander. And I'll tell you what, it made me millions and millions of dollars in contracts because I no longer was a starting caliber guard, but I was being paid like one because I had this other skill set.
That's awesome.
So that's sort of the metric that I look at,
So, one of the big things that you push in general is taking managers, taking contributors, and turning them into commanders. One of my favorite stories that you have is, obviously my favorite story is that opening. I mean, it's just, that's ballsy as hell, but
thanks.
But that's, that's a big balls move, but that isn't necessarily a move that shows skill and mastery of your own craft. One of my favorite stories is your story. I believe it was the Raiders, where there was a player that everybody thought, wasn't a part of the team or wasn't contributing or maybe had a bad attitude. And then, you were the one that kind of figured something out. Maybe you can talk about that story if you know the one I'm talking about.
Oh, sure. I definitely do. It's with Pat Sims. He's a great guy, and he was a nose tackle, big guy out of Auburn. And I think he started with the Bengals and he went to the Raiders, and we were working with the Raiders 2014, 2015. And it was a tough situation. The head coach at the time was Dennis Allen, and he's like, Jason, if I don't produce this year, I'm going to get fired. And I need you to tell me who are the guys on the team I can trust. Who are the guys that are going to be there for me in the fourth quarter? Who are the guys that are going to stay the course if we get on a losing streak? Because we just brought in a bunch of new guys, new contracts, and I don't know who they are. And as we talked about what we wanted to do with the team, Coach Allen said, if there's one guy who's going to fail, if there's one guy who's not going to succeed in this leadership training, it's going to be Pat. And I was like, well, why? He's like, oh, man, Pat, he just doesn't put any effort into anything. I'm like, well, tell me more. He's like, well, we have him on the team and he plays in these games and he crushes. He does super well on first down, but second down and third down, he just takes the play off. I was like, well, why don't you get rid of him then? He's like, well, we can't because we got this contract with him, and if we cut him, we have to eat this contract. We have to find somebody to replace him. And he does pretty well on first down, so we just got to know how to rotate him and that sort of thing. And I'm like, well, how does he get along with people on the team? He's like, he doesn't. He doesn't interact with anybody. And I'm like, okay, well, let's take a look. And so we watched Pat at practice. We observed, and the team didn't know who we were. Just they thought we were some reporters or whatever. And we watched the whole team. We specifically looked at Pat, and I've never seen this before ever, but Pat would just at times just lay down in the grass, like on his back, just lay down,
like taking a nap,
like taking a nap, not like taking a knee or whatever. He just lay down. And I was like, damn, I played college football. That never would have happened. Like you'd get thrown out of the field if you'd ever did something like that. And the coaches and the players were just talking mad shit to him, like nonstop, like just really, harsh, over the line, over the top things to Pat. And he looked like he didn't care. He didn't respond to any of it. I'm like, this is a very interesting dude, And we take him through this training. It's kind of a role-playing exercise. It lasts a few hours. He's got to walk up and down cliffs and mountains and things like that. And he's got to make decisions and all this stuff. And surprisingly, he does well. Like, he takes it seriously. He makes some good decisions. You know, he cares about being successful at this. And we sit him down after this role-playing exercise, you know, in the woods in the middle of nowhere in California. And he's like really opening up to us, you know, because we kind of developed a bond kind of going through this experience with him. And he's like, yeah, you know, I don't have a whole lot of friends here. All my friends are back in Alabama. And, you know, and every time I try to date someone, it just doesn't work out. I've tried to buy a house here. Every time I do, somebody else comes in and takes it from me. So it's kind of like, okay, well, where do you live? And he's like, well, I live at the extended stay. And we're like, the hotel? Like, he's like, yeah, by the Raiders compound? He's like, yeah, I just live there. How long have you been living there? Well, he'd been living there for like well over a year at this hotel. I'm like, well, talk to us about your daily routine. Well, I get done with practice and I go to the hotel. I order a couple pizzas or whatever, some delivery, and I just watch TV. I watch movies. Oh, really? What do you like watching? Oh, I like watching HBO. I like watching this. Well, how late do you stay up watching TV? I have a hard time sleeping, so I usually stay up to about 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock sometimes. Well, you know, you got to be at practice at like 7:30. He's like, yeah, I know. Okay, well, tell me. And he kind of goes on and on about all these things he's experiencing, right? And we're like, man, this guy's clinically depressed. Yeah, this guy's sleep deprived. This guy has like all these things going on with him in his life. And so we go back to the Raiders, you know, at the conclusion of our program, and we're briefing the coaches, and we're going through each player one by one. Like, this is what we saw, this is what we learned, this is, you know, where we see them fitting in with the organization. And we get to Pat Sims, and the coaching staff's all like, all right, now I want to hear your opinion on Pat Sims. Tell me we're not crazy. And I started out the conversation with, all right, well, let me start with this, guys. Where does Pat live? And the coaches were all kind of looking at each other, and they're like, we don't know. And I opened up the screen of the window in the room. I'm like, you see that hotel at extended stay? He's like, Pat lives there. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, he's been living there for over a year. And you know what his schedule is like? And I described to him about like his sleep deprived and what he eats and all this stuff. I'm like, listen, here's what you need to do. You need to get this guy some rest. You need to get this guy some help. You need to stop talking shit about him all the time. You need to get some friends on the team. We start talking about all these things we need to do for him. And the coaching staff is like, we feel terrible. I mean, he's been on the team for 2 years now, and we had no idea. Like, why don't you have any idea? And it's kind of like, well, we just didn't ask him. Communication, right, is the bottom line. So they got him all this help, and they're really focused on, you know, giving him what he needed. And he was an all-pro that year. He was amazing, you know. And Coach Allen, after the fact, he's like, Jason, like, we got a lot of value out of everything you did, but if there's anything I could put a number on, it's Pat Sims, because we were on the verge of cutting him, man. And we were going to eat $3 million, and we would have to spend a high draft pick next year on a guy to replace him, and we would have to bring in another guy this season who is not as good, but we'd have to pay him too. And he's like, well, at the very least, thank you for that, you know. And that's the Pat Sims story, man. And he's a great guy. He's going through a hard time, and he needed to talk to somebody, and nobody was talking to him.
Yeah, I love that story, because I think that's such the heart of what you guys do. You know, business is a really weird environment, because, you know, you do need to have, like, there have to be boundaries, right? Like, you know, Albert often, and if you guys are hearing sirens or whatnot in the background, this is Durham, and sometimes people get murdered, and the police have to do stuff about it. So
I can hear your voice through this.
We can't blur that out, you know.
It's fantastic. These microphones have the tightest radius. It's awesome.
But
you know, I would have let you know.
It's all right. But you know, so, you know, Albert always says that, like, a good business is more like a sports team. You're always trying to get the best players, and you're trying to get unit cohesion.
Yeah. It's not my turn. I mean, I heard it from Reed Hastings. I know Netflix has a merciless
I'm not saying
culture.
that you were the originator of the concept.
But I do agree with it.
I said you say it a lot. Whereas,
I do agree with it.
You know, and, you know, in my past experience, I have tended to treat businesses a little more like a family than probably is healthy, because you end up making excuses for people. So I think my previous method is probably too far, but the other direction, which I think is the worst direction, is where, everybody is a cog in the machine. Everybody's a number. There's no investment in the people around you. There's a coldness to it. And I think that even if you are a person that doesn't even care and just wants to like maximize business, if you don't know the people in your organization, what they need, what they're going through from time to time, then it's very hard to be successful. And so, talk about how do you get people to own that concept, that there is more to it than just, here's your job, here's your responsibility, here's your paycheck.
Yeah, great question. And I answer that like this. We've talked a lot about communication today. And I think in business and in life in general, you make a lot of assumptions, and the solution to these assumptions is just go and talk to this person and find out. Go talk to them and find out what they want and give them what they want. And so for my businesses, I do a few things. One is anybody that comes in the organization, I have them figure out what their values are, and so we go through kind of a, not necessarily a standard test or anything like that, but just, a survey of these are some values that we, 250 values, which values really resonate with you the most? Because it sort of tells you what you care about, and what resonates best with you. And so I get about 3 to 5 values for each individual. And looking at that, I know how to interact with that person. If that person really resonates with trust or loyalty, okay, I know how to go that way. If that person resonates with caring, well, then I have to be a lot more emotional than I am normally, with that person, and so forth. And then I ask them, what do you want? Like, what's your vision? What's your dream? What's your goal? Like, what do you want to accomplish in your life? Not necessarily at this business, at this company. What do you want to accomplish with your life? And it's surprising to find out that most people have never even thought about what values they have. They haven't thought about their life creed. They haven't thought about what they want out of life. And so once we kind of go through this process, I do my best to communicate with them based on their values and then help them accomplish their dream, their vision, their goals. If I can help them achieve that, they're going to help me achieve what I want at my business. And it's sort of just about investing in other people, because if you don't invest in them, somebody else is going to. Right? And that's what I believe.
So this is a great segue. So not only have you started a business where you're teaching people how to invest in their people, teaching people how to make their organization better, how to become a commander, but you also are the chairman of a nonprofit that teaches veteran entrepreneurs how to succeed at that. So talk about how did Warrior Rising start? Why is that your passion?
Yeah, Warrior Rising, it's a 501c3 charitable organization, and it helps veterans in the most altruistic way we know how. We help them help themselves through business ownership. And so we help them find their purpose again by creating or accelerating a business. And it's been around for 6 years now. Surprising it's been around that long. And it started at the Raiders. Again, it was sort of a catalyst for the organization. We finished up our event, and I bring a lot of wounded vets out. There was a lot of Green Berets and Navy SEALs and Marines and guys, Medal of Honor guys at this event, and we were celebrating after the event was over. And I was an officer in the military. You guys have probably heard me tell this story before. I'm just going to tell it again. It's sort of been ingrained in me, internalized to make sure the guys are taken care of. And so I was just walking around asking, hey, how's everything going? Can I do anything for you? And I heard these responses. We get a large disability check from the government. There's charities that take us hunting and fishing. There's charities that build homes for us. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. These guys are getting paid by me. These guys are getting these benefits from these charities. And it was pretty quiet. And I could tell something was off. And the guys were like, well, it's not that awesome, Jay. I'm like, well, it sounds like it's pretty good.
Yeah, sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, what's wrong with it? And like, listen, we never asked for this stuff, man. I'm like, they're saying that we go hunting and fishing, we have a great time, but we come back home, nothing's changed for us. Nothing. As a matter of fact, it's worse. I'd rather be hunting and fishing all the time. And Tommy Parker, I don't think I've ever mentioned him by name before. Tommy Parker's a triple amputee Marine. He had a home built for him in Montana, a handicap accessible home. And he's like, Jay, like, I don't feel like I've earned this home. I stepped in on an IED when I was 19 years old and I lost 3 limbs, man. I don't feel like I'm a hero. I'm just a guy who stepped on an IED. I don't feel like I deserve a home. And if I ever wanted to get a home, I wanted to earn this home. I wanted to buy it myself. I wanted to have some pride in that. And he's like, all these people serving me, like, I don't like it, man. I joined the military for a reason. I want to serve other people, And he's like, I just sit outside my house because I don't want to go in. Okay. And guys were telling me, what it comes down to is, we had a purpose in the military, Jay, and now we no longer have a purpose, and we're looking for it. And one of the guys asked me, how'd you find your purpose again after you left the military? And nobody's ever asked me that before. And I kind of struggled to answer it. I was like, well, I'm not really sure. I guess, I started Mission 60, and it's been pretty successful. I get a chance to bring you guys back out on the team, and we get a chance to do some fun things together. And, you can share your story and with the client. It's powerful for the client. We can help clients. We can make money. I guess that's my purpose now. I spend a lot of my time focused on that and thinking about that when I have nothing to think about. And guys were like, well, we want to feel that same purpose as well. And I kind of asked them, well, what do you mean? And they're like, well, we want to start businesses. Okay, how many of you want to start businesses? And they all were like, yeah, raise their hands. I want to start a business. Okay, well, you have ideas? And they all had ideas, and most of the ideas were the worst. The ideas you've ever heard in your life.
But I used to think
it's so true, man.
But let's get serious. Most ideas you hear, they sound bad, but then you look around you, man. Businesses everywhere. Like if someone had come to you and said, "Hey, man, I'm going to seal air because it's going to be a better way to package things," would you have told them that they were nuts? Because the sealed air company's worth, I think, $20 billion.
Yeah, no, I got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think about that too. That's a fair comment. Because you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah,
you never know.
The first time I heard the idea for eBay, I was like, that is not going to work. No one is going to pay. I'm going to pay someone. They're just going to ship me something. Like, why would they do that? I thought I was going to get scammed.
Uber, but the same thing. You're like, it's a great idea. Airbnb. Oh, well, it's never going to work. It is.
Yep. Yeah. But I will say though, for every one of those weird ideas that does work, most of them still suck. I don't care what anybody says.
Like what? The jump to conclusions, Matt?
Yeah, exactly.
You telling me that's not going to be a hit? I'm telling you right now, if someone makes that, that's a hit.
He was in range 15.
I'm not. Oh, really? This ain't about you, Nick.
Yeah, he was.
This ain't about you. This is about a jump to conclusions, Matt.
It's always about me.
Good.
Fantastic.
But anyway, he was actually the zombie that killed Marcus Luttrell in range 15. Anyway,
shameless plug.
Richard Reel, phenomenal human being, absolutely phenomenal. Yeah.
Know.
Anyway,
so there are no stupid questions. Well, yeah, there are some stupid questions.
That's definitely stupid questions.
But I would say this though: the thing that Jason proved though is, and maybe you can bring this to Warrior Rising, is you should ask people to sell it instead of telling you their idea. Because what you did with Mission 60, because it is true. If you could sell it to someone, then it's how dumb can it be? Like someone wants to buy it.
That's true.
That's
it might be like the great first test. It's like, oh, okay, then you should sell that, and people are like, oh, but
sell it to one person.
But let's do it in a really harsh environment where we get red and green paddles, and at the end, it's just like all red paddles, and
you're done, son. Get out of here.
Albert, you weren't there for this one, but at one of Jason's events, I was a speaker, and I've never seen Jason's face in more duress because he's a guy that usually handles things extremely well.
Yeah.
No matter what.
I try.
No matter
At
what.
least I try to look like it,
And so Jason gets up there and he announces there's 12 people that are competing. He announces the 3 finalists, and then the finalists leave the room and prepare for the final thing. And I get up there and I'm like, what a bunch of losers in this room. And I just keep going. And Jason's face is like white. Like there's no blood in it. And he's like, no, you're not. Nick doesn't mean it. You're not losers. And I'm like, no, you're all losers.
You had a great point about what you're saying. But at the time, I was like, "Oh, Nick, I don't want them to think they're losers," you know. But as he finished, talking,
we turned it around.
He brought it back home, and it was like, "Oh, yes, you did it." It was great, man.
But it does bring up like an important point, right? And I think like even though you started off with a big win, I think you, just like me, just like every entrepreneur that's ever been out there, it's not all wins. There's a whole lot of losses.
Oh, totally.
How do you prepare somebody? What advice do you have for somebody that is starting, knowing that it's going to be a lot more failure than it is victory?
No, I would say they don't know that. Most people start because they believe.
That's a better way.
The people who don't start things typically kind of already reaffirm it to themselves, like, oh, this will never work. This is going to be too hard. I can't do this by myself. Whatever their reasoning, they usually have an idea that this won't work. And then the people that go for it tend to, usually, in my experience, they're all optimists. They don't ever think anyone's going to say no until, of course, they hear the word no.
Until they do.
Right?
Which happens a lot.
Yeah. And then even if you can stomach all the no's, it doesn't guarantee success, but it does, like we always say, at bats. You get another
The more at bats you get. Like Jason, he got all the way to the Jets. You know?
Well, that's only midway through
if
all the
he
teams.
sucked just a little bit more, he would have made it to the Patriots, and who knows where he'd be right now.
Yeah, seriously. You never know, man. I could have been Jocko Willink by that point, man.
No, you could be TV12's guy. Yeah. Who's this guy that stretches him all the time?
I don't know.
What is it, Gonzalez or something?
Yeah, Mark Gonzalez or something.
It's not Mark Gonzalez. But anyways,
it doesn't matter.
Whoever his business partner is in TB12, that guy's like made a fortune off the fact that he stretched out Tom Brady.
He stretches Tom Brady and makes him eat like asparagus pudding or whatever. Anyway, back to
out here in Utah, by the way.
Is he?
I don't know him. Yeah, he's out here in Utah.
Back to Jason. How do you prepare people for failure?
Yeah.
As a business person.
Or what advice do you have for people that are starting a business and you know that they're going to hit those roadblocks?
Or people that are scared to fail.
To be an entrepreneur, it takes a special type of personality, right? It really does, and you got to know yourself. Like, what do you value? Who are you? What do you believe in? What have you done in the past that has proved to you that you can continue moving forward when things are tough, right? For me in my life, things I've learned, my experiences, my values, loyalty, determination, resourcefulness. So when I meet other people like that, like we hit it off, like we're best friends, right? And that's who I am at my core. Like I'm determined to win. I'm going to figure a way out to win when I don't have all the tools or all the information. I'm going to figure it out. What have I done in my life to prove to myself that I can do that? I went to West Point, worst 4 years of my life, right? You got to be determined and resourceful. I was Ranger School guy. I mean, you got to go through, special forces, combat, all that stuff. I'm like, I am like that. I'm not just saying I'm like that. I really am like that, And I'm an optimist. I see the good in everything, and that's a detriment to me in a lot of ways because I see possibilities when sometimes possibilities aren't there. You know what I mean? But I see it. And so knowing that that's what's good and bad about me, I try to bring people to the team that sort of balance me out. Somebody that can maybe show a little bit more emotion to the employees because I can be, Vulcan at times, and I'm very logical, I guess, with that. Somebody who can say, Jason, let me red team this thing. Let me shoot some holes in it. Let me be the devil's advocate. I don't think it's going to work because of this, this, and this. And you gotta not be offended by that. You can't let your ego get in the way of that. Listen to it. You don't have to agree with it. And if I start to feel emotional about it, I give it some time, a day or two to reflect on it. And then, I make a decision on if we're going to pursue that or not, Some people we bring to the organization at Warrior Rising and we kind of ask them some questions. It's pretty clear that they're not the entrepreneurial type of guy. They're a guy that needs to have a job, and we try to help them understand that, hey, nothing wrong with you. You're just not an entrepreneurial guy. Like you can get a job working for a company or you could be a great number 2 guy or number 3 or whatever, but you just, there's certain traits that entrepreneurs have. Like you said, you really can't give up. I mean, very rarely do you have an idea, you start something and you're successful right off the bat. You fail. And you got to get yourself back up. You got to figure out what went wrong. You got to learn how to pivot, and you got to get excited about it. You can't dwell on it for too long, So I think that was probably the best way I can answer that for you guys.
So I know we're down to Jason's last 5 minutes because he does have young children.
I think we have 15 minutes, don't we?
No, he said he could go 15.
Okay,
after.
all right, we've got 5 minutes, and then there's
right. Your wife gave you a hard stop of
she said
3:15. 3:15.
We're not allowed to talk to Jason for more than 5 minutes.
5 more minutes. And for the record, so everyone knows, it's because Jason's got 2 young children. He's trying to be a dad, whatever. 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 He's trying to be a dad, whatever. 4 and 2.
You got 5 minutes to save this podcast now because I've been.
No, listen, the podcast, it's been a great episode. Listen, the big thing that you were just talking about, pivots, being an entrepreneur, how hard it is, and you guys have changed your business a little. You've gone, away from just sports teams to say like, hey, we can train and build up individuals as well as part of a company, as well as individually. Talk about the decision process behind that, and of course, throw in a final pitch before you bounce, so that anyone who's listening that says, hey, I want this guy to train me or train my team.
Yeah.
How can they get in contact with you?
We should also mention best-selling book, Deliberate Discomfort, and then Jason.
That's to train yourself.
Jason has built through Mission 60 the Deliberate Discomfort Challenge, which Albert and I and Hollywood.
That's right.
All 3 of us are Class 1 graduates.
Hollywood, have you kept the weight off?
He's kept most of it off. He's kept most of it.
Yeah, I've kept most of mine off too.
Yeah.
I'm eternally grateful and proud of you guys for doing that. I was in that class with you guys. It was a lot of fun. We're going to do it. We do it every Monday. A new class starts every Monday. 60 days, transform your life in the most meaningful way possible. Become a total warrior. Become a whole person, focus on mental, physical, spiritual, social, emotional, professional domains. And you guys crushed it, man. You guys.
It was no joke. It was no joke. It asked a lot of you.
No, I did not like it.
But it was.
I mean, I could say that. It's not called the Happy Fun event.
It's not easy.
It's not called the Happy Fun time. It's called the Deliberate Discomfort Challenge.
Yeah, if you and I made a challenge, it would be like, you've got to drink one different kind of whiskey every
I don't
day.
even drink. My challenge would be don't talk to me for 60 days because that would make me the happiest.
Be in a dark room for 60 days.
But it was pretty cool. I will say it was pretty cool seeing everyone going through it. And like we talked about earlier, pivoting. We saw some things. We got to see the importance of, because people ask all the time, well, why would I pay for that?
Yeah.
It's like we saw the importance of having to go through it with somebody. Yep. Kind of like what you were talking about with being a professional athlete, no one aligning to your team. Talk a little bit about that before you bounce. I know you got to bounce pretty soon. Like, why is this important? Why is it important to go with a team? And why do you offer team building to companies as well as individuals? Even if individuals join you, you still force them into the team.
You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, you go with the team, man. I've always been a team guy. I've always played team sports, so I've always seen the value of having a team around you. Like when we've won championships as a team, it was cool to hoist a trophy and and feel like, man, we're the best or whatever. But more importantly for me, more impactful for me was just seeing the faces of my teammates, and knowing that we did this together. And that's what business is all about as well. It's like doing this together as a team, celebrating with your guys, with your team, with your, hopefully you build a culture where you can consider yourself something of a family, doing something with your family like that. Even though I don't want anything to be confused with a business as a family. It's not, but you can build a family like culture at your organization. And so, for me with the team aspect of it all is when we were going through the Deliberate Discomfort Challenge, for example, if I were doing that by myself, there were days where I was tired. I didn't want to get up. There were days where, I threw up my back about halfway through. And if I was doing it by myself, I could have very easily said, all right, screw it. I'll just start again in a month or two. Mm-hmm. But seeing the class that we created, I think there were 120 people in that first class, seeing them go through this discomfort, seeing them push through pain, seeing people say, hey, I have COVID, but I'm out here running sprints, or hey, I kind of hurt my ankle, but I can still push through it. I can do it. Nick was injured. When I'm saying injured, I'm not saying like seek medical help if you're really injured, but when you're in discomfort, when you're in a little bit of pain, you can seeing other people do this, seeing other people wake up at 4 a.m. and get after it. See people go, doing their workouts outside when it's, negative 20 degrees.
Yeah.
Yep.
There were people,
Snowing, raining,
ice on their
muddy. Yep.
Probably the most motivational thing for me was actually one of the members. I won't name the person because they have a right to privacy. No. It was one of the gentlemen who cares for his mother. His mother is in a physical condition where she cannot care for herself, so she is wheelchair bound.
So he pushed her everywhere and
has
these
to be
workouts
fed,
sucked.
and but he was already doing that, and he still chose. You know what I'm saying? He's been caring for her for a while.
Yep.
He still chose to bring her through this challenge because he himself felt like there were new barriers he was trying to break through.
Yep.
And when I was reading those stories, I was like, man, it's the only reason why I don't do a workout is because I'm tired. That seems like a bad excuse. Now all of a sudden I'm doing things. I don't even really know the guy, but I see the guy like posting his stories. I'm like, shit.
Yep.
I'm complaining about some kettlebell swings. Like, I'm gonna do that. Yeah. I'm gonna put the work in.
That's exactly the point I'm making. Is like when you see other people doing things like that, you're like, what excuse do I have? I have to do it.
Yeah.
And especially me, I created the damn thing. I got to do it. I can't just be like, oh, it's too hard for me. I got to do it, even though I was having a hard time and struggling.
All right. So final question for you, because we know you got to go.
We don't want to get you,
everybody
killed by your wife.
Deliberate Discomfort Challenge. Anybody that wants to, there's no precondition to your current shape or anything like that. But for people that want to work with Mission 60, for companies that want to work with Mission 60, or for individuals that want to work with Warrior Rising, who should reach out to you for Mission 60?
For Mission 60, right? You go to mission60.com. You can spell that any way you like. We've got all those domains. And if you're a CEO, a decision maker that wants to create the right culture in your company, if you want to help your employees become better at being leaders, because you're mid to, top level managers, right? They don't get the leadership training really that they need in order to get promoted and succeed and to lead other people. They're just sort of expected to lead because they have it on their resume.
Yeah.
Right? Because maybe they were at another organization and they did some basic form of leadership. Leadership, commandership, it's vitally important to your organization to build the right culture, to make better decision makers at your organization. And that's what it's all about.
And not just for the top, right? Because, we have a mutual friend that's worked with you that runs a sales organization, and he's not at the top of his organization. He's a mid-level manager on his way up, and he's talked about Mission 60 being absolutely invaluable.
And that's absolutely right, man. It's to me, it's invaluable. We've created this curriculum under the umbrella of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. It's the deliberate discomfort mindset. It's doing hard things. It's choosing hard things before hard things choose you. And the decision maker at the top, they'll hire us for themselves and then also for everybody in the company, the mid-level managers to the new salespeople at the organization. And, we'll have workshops. We'll have a master class. We've got the book behind us, contains all the curriculum. If you're interested in what we teach, buy the book. You'll learn everything about how we operate in the book, Deliberate Discomfort. You go on Amazon or wherever books are sold to get that. And we've got a new platform coming out where we're going to do a lot of executive coaching, and we're going to give people access to celebrity-type coaches as well, people that were former, coaches in the NFL and Major League Baseball. We got generals and admirals will help you out. We got, professional sports captains of teams, as well as, the guys that we have on the team already, the Medal of Honor guys and the Green Berets and Navy SEALs and Rangers and Marines and so forth. So we got a pretty robust value proposition, and we really care about helping people become better versions of themselves.
Awesome.
Oh, awesome.
Right,
is your wife out the door knocking? Telling you to...
not quite yet, but she has been texting. So.
All right.
We'll let you go.
If you want your leadership not to suck, reach out at mission60.com. If you are an entrepreneur that wants, a veteran entrepreneur that wants to get better, wants to learn, wants to go through Warrior Academy, go to warriorrising.org. And if you want to challenge yourself personally as an individual, get yourself in better shape mentally, physically, spiritually, all those things, then go to deliberateness.com. And of course, you can buy the Deliberate Discomfort book on Amazon.
Jason Van Camp, thanks for joining us today on Zero to Somewhere.
Thanks, man.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys. Check out Diesel Jack Media as well.
Hey, this is our podcast. Of course you're checking us out. One of the groups I think that would benefit most for anyone who's out there that's ever led a sales team. I've led a sales team. Sales is just so hard. People don't like getting rejected. Business development is really hard.
Yep.
We've seen it. We've hired it.
You guys
and
do
we've
your
also
thing.
been
I'm going to see where my wife's
on the
at.
other side. Salespeople calling you, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, we had to.
Scared.
Sorry,
they
I hate
call you. They're almost scared.
You know,
it's one of the hardest jobs there is, and
because
it's essential.
Okay, I'll be back down in a second, depending on where the kids are.
Well, no one wants to bother someone. I know that.
The Zoom
call. Like you don't want to wake up every day bothering somebody.
Like I loathe getting the emails.
I don't mind it as much because I've been on the other side, I think, but I kindly decline. I try to kindly decline and be like, hey, not necessarily.
I hate it, and I'm perfectly happy. Like just spam, like I don't care.
Yeah, it's a hard game, no doubt about it.
So getting good at that, and I've met people in my life. I talk about
shout out to George.
About George Fernandez all the time. He worked for me at Ranger Up. Now he's kicking butt.
Hey, if you're George Fernandez's employer, go ahead and cut him loose so we can pick him up.
Yeah, because we want to hire him back.
I heard he's making big money though, which means he's selling a lot of shit. Whatever he's selling,
he's doing great. Yeah, but he was he was the best salesman I've ever seen. But there's an art to it. Like he can talk to somebody, and they're like, "Go fuck yourself." And 5 minutes later, like they're sending George like pictures of the kids. I'm like, what happened? Like this guy literally told you to go fuck yourself. He's like, I don't know. I just talked to him, and for some reason he talks like a 1940s, paper guy. Well,
that is your default impersonation of everything. I mean, I'm serious. Meets a hot chick. He's like, yeah. She was like, hey, can I remember?
Yeah. See, yeah. Look at me. Anyway, Jason's put together a couple phenomenal businesses, and the most kinetic person that I've ever seen in terms of he had a business model that involved in-person events.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit.
Yeah. So
and he changed everything about his business and had to go full digital and created multiple different tools that he was able to sell online, completely changing his business. One of the things that you're going to find when you're an entrepreneur is that things might start working and then all of a sudden they don't. The market changes.
Market
tastes
forces
change. A technology comes in and breaks up what you were doing. And if you can't pivot, then you're going to die. I have had to pivot many, many times.
You sell T-shirts, man.
More than I can count.
No.
I mean,
I know what you're saying.
No, that's a great point though. But what worked, at the beginning with Ranger Up, we were selling, MySpace. We were selling on blogs.
Yeah.
And then Facebook showed up and started to become a thing.
Yep.
And then, there was a period of time where all of our shirts were all over prints because that's what, it was peak affliction.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't sell an all over print shirt now.
Yeah.
We
just talked with that one of our clients who says like once your product leaves your core market, it's almost impossible to sell to the core market again. Yeah. It's happened time and time again to many, many brands. We talked about it. It's why luxury brands actually shred their goods because you poor fucks out there. They don't want it in your hands. They literally don't want it in your hands because rich people don't want to associate with poor people. So that's what happens.
So, for me,
terrible. That's what happens.
Kind of closing this out. If I was going to say, things that we pulled away from Van Camp. One, go big or go home, right? He sold his company with no product by flashbanging the New York
and
Jets.
Zip tying.
And I'll tell you that any time that I have the opportunity to flashbang the New York Jets and zip tie their coaches, I will take it. But he did it for an actual purpose. But then the other thing to take away from Jason, other than grit, which I think is something that most of the entrepreneurs that we've talked to have, right? You can't be successful without grit.
It's pretty hard. It's really hard.
It's to constantly recreate your business to meet the market conditions. And if you can do that, you can succeed. Yeah.
Don't be like Kodak. Kodak saw the digital cameras come around. They're like, that's a fad. We're still all in on film. For those of you guys that don't know, that's what they were all in on.
Are you still talking, or are we going to end this episode?
They went bankrupt.
Can we end this episode?
We can end the episode. Sell shit. Stay gritty. Take it easy, everybody.
Thanks, guys.